In the next edition of It's About Money, we'll be doing part 2 of our series for the Rochester Chamber Orchestra. I hope you join us in the next edition of It's About Money. Hello, I'm Nannette Nocon, and welcome to this edition of It's About Money. My guests are from the Rochester Chamber Orchestra, and we're talking about the future of the Rochester Chamber Orchestra with Arild Remmereit, David Fetler, and Tom Paul. We're very excited to have them back. If you haven't checked part 1, please do so. So welcome again, gentlemen. I appreciate you joining me today.
Thank you.
So we've Chamber Orchestra is celebrating its 50 years coming up. And we're looking forward to another 50 years to continue the legacy that you have started. And you'll be the music director starting the 51st season.
Correct.
So what are your thoughts as you move forward? It's been a successful 50 years. And what are you thinking about doing in the next 50?
Well, I am...
the next 50, I think. That's what I said that way.
Well, I will be 102. One shall not be pessimistic,
yeah, that's
right?
right. You never know.
Well, first of all, I am inspired by what I learn of the presence and the past of the institution. I respect enormously the work that has been done here by very few individuals. Of course, David Fetler, the absolute key element, the founder, and as we spoke about in the first part, not only the music director, he actually has taken care of so many issues, administrative issues, logistic issues, and that all deserves a lot of respect. So my first statement is I don't do anything without his approval and blessing. If David doesn't want it, I don't want it. I do this because I respect him a lot, and he has become a good friend for me. And I would like to see his baby grow to become America's most exciting chamber orchestra.
Cool.
Every concert I do is kind of a life and death situation. It's the most important thing on the planet for me at this moment. And the concert I've had one concert with the chamber orchestra already. It was in February. Actually, for me, was a very memorable concert. I felt the music was especially energized. The audience was attentive and participated, and a great moment for me. And I want to build on that energy. I know the musicians want that. I know David wants it. I know the board wants it. So the support is there, and it feels good. It feels right.
Fantastic. And you were also talking about some of the thematic programming that will be coming up, and that includes women. And are there other themes that you're looking at?
Well, as we also spoke about in the first part of the show, it was easy for me to be motivated by the great spirits of Rochester. I read about them early, before I moved to Rochester. Susan B. Anthony being one of them, Frederick Douglass being a natural one too. So always having felt like an underdog myself, coming from this little village on the Midwestern Norwegian coast, to be doing what I do, there was no direct link to all this. I always felt like a little bit of an underdog, always wanting to speak up for the underdogs. I want to make that point in my choice of repertoire, so it felt good to present to Rochester a series of women composers and just show to the world what great music this is. So I will continue that, because there is a lot for chamber orchestra through the centuries that is great music written by women. But what I will see as a wonderful project is inspired by Frederick Douglass. I would like in the coming up seasons to pay attention to the African-rooted composers' influence on the music we perform, which will be a thing that will surprise many how significant that influence is, how important it is, and how completely forgotten it is. And more than anything, what we do here, we are presenting enormously good music, wonderfully good music.
So what are your thoughts with the change, with the expansion of the repertoire?
I think it's wonderful because it continues what my idea has been over the years, is to present as much variety as possible and different cultures. A few years ago, I featured a Native American Indian composer, performer, violinist, storyteller, mesmerizing performance. It was a best box office of the year.
Oh, wow, very nice.
But artistically, it was so inspiring that the people were practically in tears of the effect he had on the audience, and very worthwhile.
Okay, that's great, that's great. So for our audience members, I mean, how much does it cost to go to a chamber orchestra? I mean, 2013 fall season coming up, how much does it cost?
Well, the general admission is, for a single ticket, it'd be $30 for a concert.
Okay, and then there's discount.
And there's a series price, too. For all 4 concerts would be $100.
Right, right.
So there's a good savings there, at least 15%. I didn't do the math exactly, but I think something like that.
Sure, sure.
That's the general admission. And then there's a senior price, too, $65 for the series, $20 for an individual ticket. And then the kids, I should say the students, kids among them, of course, $30 for the whole series, which is a real bargain.
Sure, less than a movie ticket.
And then,
For each concert.
No popcorn, though. And $10 per individual.
I see.
So it's really very reasonably priced.
Right, which I think is great. It's a nonprofit organization, but the ticket sales are not enough to cover the cost of performances. So what is an organization like the Chamber Orchestra do for the balance of the cost? Because you have to pay the musicians a decent, a competitive wage. Otherwise, it would be hard to perform.
Well, it's the same for all performing entities, chamber or larger or smaller, whatever. It's an intricate infrastructure of donor support, of grants and aid, and just individual contributions along the way.
Right.
It's any way you can get it, you get it.
Of course, of course. So it's great that being a volunteer organization, you save a lot on the administration side, having volunteers.
Oh, that's
And then you keep the ticket sales at a reasonable price.
yes.
And then we also fundraise to be able to help support the concert. So it sounds like it's economically efficient.
Right.
We also occasionally get sponsors for a particular concert,
I see.
or a particular event, or a soloist.
Sure.
And so we try all different ideas which is pretty much the same with all performing arts.
Sure, yeah.
That can come in a form of a bequeathment, is that the word?
Bequest, yeah.
Bequest, yeah. From someone who's included the orchestra in their will
Sure.
and made a wonderful bit of help for us at some point. That's happened recently, several ways, very generous ways.
Of course, you want them to be alive to watch and see the performance, but it's nice that they remember them in the will.
Preferably.
We can't deny them their vista from heaven.
Yes, of course. That's great.
Also, I want to mention the wonderful acoustics of the Hochstein Music School, the performance hall there. It's ideal for a chamber orchestra.
No, that's great.
Absolutely.
You're never far from the players in there. It's the way it's structured. There's a sense of intimacy for the number of seats in that place. It's amazingly almost self-contradictory, but it's all good.
Yeah.
That you can feel that closeness and read the subtle expressions on people's faces and enjoy the details.
Sure. So the acoustics are great, but also it's a smaller group of musicians, so you can basically hear
Each other better.
Yeah, and
Transparent.
It's transparent, correct. It's a perfect setting for a small orchestra. We will have somewhere between 20 and 30 musicians on stage. The stage can take more, but the problem with such a fairly small place is as soon as you have too much sound, maybe too much weight on brass and percussion, the acoustics, the hall gets overwhelmed, which is never the case when you play with the chamber orchestra.
I see, I see. Yeah, and the way it's actually configured there at the Hochstein with a wraparound, then you can have audience members look from the side as opposed to just being in the front of it. Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. That's a thing I always liked. I went to concerts also as a student. If I can look a little bit at the fingers of the players and to see the conductor's expressions and so on in the face. So
theater in the round,
That's right. That's right. It is like theater in the round. That's
Ideal.
right. That's right. It is a wonderful feel. It's a great venue because that used to be a church, isn't it, the Hochstein?
Yes.
Yeah.
They
Well-
still have services there, actually.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
both Susan B. Anthony and Frederick Douglass funeral services were held there.
Oh, is that right? I didn't
So,
know that. Oh,
we
bit of
are,
history.
We are in a
Historic.
sacred historic
Sacred,
place.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So really, in the past, you've had some concerts at Kilbourne, but really, if you can have the concerts at Hochstein, that's your preferred venue. Yeah.
I think it's world class.
I think
it's
the
absolutely.
Hochstein is, I think, my favorite.
Yeah. Very nice.
It's still bigger than Kilburn too.
Oh, is it? Okay, with 800 seats, right? 850 seats.
Correct.
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. So if we were talking about, the future, what is, and we talked about what your vision is. What is your vision as board chair for the Chamber Orchestra?
Well, to follow the lead, first of all, to support the initiatives and the visions of our directors. And that involves all kinds of questions to ask each other. How can we do this? What can we do? And specifically, though, there are some things in my sight, my targeting, to do some recording, for one thing. I want to see us produce recordings. These performances are so marvelous. I hate to see them just vanish into the ether, when it's all over. I want to see if we can do that and give ourselves more footing for that wider international standing that we could have.
Sure.
And I believe very firmly that we can achieve that over some years, if it's a goal.
Sure, sure.
And I will certainly focus on that as one of our goals.
Very nice. So that requires some financial and agreements too, financial commitments and some agreements as well, right?
A
with the
sponsor.
union, a sponsor. Yeah, and then working with some permissions, right, with the union musicians and so on, right?
Yeah, well, there's no problem with that. It just takes money.
Sure, sure. Oh, I see. They're okay with the
So they have the
permission.
union. There's a rate,
I
union
see.
rate for recording.
I see.
So
I see. So when you have the money to pay, they're happy
Sure,
to
no
be
problem.
recorded. Yes.
But I mean, Rochester has very talented musicians, and the RCO players are exceptional, exceptionally talented. No question about that. But of course, when you play together 3-4 times a year, it's too little to build this talent to breathtakingly stunning piece of orchestra, an orchestra. So we will aim, of course, also to kind of underline the goal of making recordings and maybe even make a tour. One should be allowed to dream. The first thing is to grow to a level where we play more together. That's of significant importance.
Great. That sounds good.
So that's audience building and more events,
Yes.
closer together,
Right.
with a core of players that really are unified and developed as such.
That's
And it also is an economical challenge because we will grow. We will have to grow there too, right? The decision is to expand and
and have a full house of patrons.
yes, we want to sell out
Enjoying the
every
music.
concert.
Yes, that's right. That's
And
right.
that speaks to another goal of mine, is to get the younger and younger audiences out. So that's another special goal of mine, is to, and I know it is also to Mr. Remmereit, to reach out to the young people across all the dividing lines of age or race or whatever the dividing lines there are in the culture, they'll be made to dissolve
Very nice. We'll take a quick break. Thank you, our audience, but stay tuned. We'll be talking more with Arild Remmereit, David Fetler, and Tom Paul of the Rochester Chamber Orchestra.
Hi, I'm Betty White, and I'd like you to meet my friend here. This is Red. He's a puppy with a very special job to do, to be a guide dog for someone who is blind. Together, they'll travel the world in safety and with confidence. Guide dogs for the blind provide their services free of charge, thanks to the generosity of people like you. Please visit guidedogs.com to learn how to help today.
And we're back. I'm Nannette Nocon. It's about money, and I'm here with conversation with three exciting gentlemen from the Rochester Chamber Orchestra. So I have Arild Remmereit, the artistic director, David Fetler, the founding music director, and Tom Paul, yes, who is the board chair and the president. President of the Rochester Chamber Orchestra. Thank you very much. So what I want to ask you before, at the beginning of this segment, is to define for me what a successful concert is, and what are the components of a successful concert. We'll start with Arild.
Oh, no, come on, let's start with David.
Okay. All right.
I vote for David.
Successful concert
Yes.
where everything goes beautifully.
Okay. What does beautifully mean?
Intonation, interpretation, spirit of the music, where you, after the piece is over, you're just in a different world. You're in a heaven, so to speak. I mean, everything goes right, you know. 'Cause it doesn't happen very often, but that's the ideal.
Yeah. Right. So but it could be the perception of the audience too, right? I mean.
Well, if I feel that way, I'm sure the audience will feel in many ways similar.
Sure. Okay.
Tom?
Well, you hit it. For me, it's being transported
Transported.
in time, and within a time frame. It's an event. It's not a thing. It's a happening. And you just achieve all you can in the moments with all the preparation you can possibly muster for it.
And I would also add, ideally, it's kind of an experience that you don't even think about problems of intonation or rhythm, because there are no. You just enjoy the spirit of it because it's so beautifully done.
Yes.
Yeah, when music is natural, when music is just a part of you, then you're on top of your game. I agree, of course, to everything said. Before and after, I would love for us, though, in order to make a successful concert, to have been able to connect with the community in a way that they come to our concert. And as an end result of this nirvana situation, that they are touched and they feel they have taken part in something that has importance to them, so that they would feel that this belongs to their lives, this is their lives, the orchestra belongs to them.
That's very nice. You know, as an audience member and as money side of things, I think about not only those wonderful things of the connection between the audience and the musicians, you know, but also the financial aspect of it, and having so that it has a continuous life to it. So I think of it as you know, having enough audience members. Frankly, if a concert is sold out, there's a certain amount of energy, and I'm sure as the stars of the concert, you feel that when there's a lot more people, as opposed to you know, weather being not so great and not having enough people show up. But of course, you could also have an exciting concert with smaller groups of people. But I think on the financial side, if you can have enough people go there
Sure.
and support it.
I think our approach must be, though, that you give everything every time. And I've had concerts in my life where it was really almost nobody there. And I just go out there wanting to give every single bit of enthusiasm and power, energy, music that I have to these individuals, because it feels very uncomfortable for them also to be present when it's It's so when they are alone in the hall. So of course, to make a successful concert, we must be able to fill the hall, ideally.
Right, right. And to do that is to talk about it. So in a venue like this, when we talk to other people about it. And if they want to check out the website, it's rochesterchamberorchestra.org, right? And then, so there's generally 4 concerts, but you hope to do more. And
We are going to bring some surprises.
okay,
Also, I think the orchestra members, the orchestra players themselves, will feel more enthusiastic to perform when there's a full house.
sure, sure. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Just a certain amount of energy. Yeah, that's great. That's terrific. So what's ahead? What are you excited about? What are you concerned about? What does a chamber orchestra look like in your eyes in the near term, in the long term? So is it hard? It's not so hard to let go, right? Because like you said, you're ready. 50 years is a long time.
Yeah, well,
But you'll still be a part of it because of
Sure,
the
yeah.
Messiah. Yeah.
no, I think the goal is to continue and then keep improving and keep growing.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
My goals are as ambitious as can be. It should be become the very best possible, and I could even take away possible, if you wish, and say it should become the very best, the most spectacular. I know the musicians feel like this, and they are very good. We can do it.
Right, right.
And we want to introduce experiences musically to people who've never had that experience before,
Sure. Yes.
by opening up new possibilities, well aside from the pop culture that we suffer from all the time.
And often it's a pleasant surprise for people who've not.
Exactly. I wish I couldn't read these letters that we've been getting lately. It would take too much time in your show. But there have been examples of that, shining examples of people whom I sort of induced or coerced to come. And they wrote letters like, I had no idea a chamber orchestra could be so wonderfully exciting. I was afraid to go to a string quartet concert, but I came to this because you made me come. And they're just falling all over themselves, thanking me for introducing them.
This is again the misunderstanding. Chamber indicating in many people's minds that this is not an orchestra. So we again should make the point and underline orchestra. It's an orchestra. It's everywhere from 20 and upwards to. There are chamber orchestras with 50 members too. We will probably not play with these numbers, but somewhere around 20, 30. And you know, the thing is, when you have a lot of players, you get touched by the masses. It sounds so big and fat and pompous. Here you get touched by the energy, the articulation. You hear every single string player also here in a chamber orchestra, and the energy becomes, especially in an acoustic as great as an Hochstein, it becomes very exciting.
A good example is the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Oh, yes.
I mean, they're full-time. In fact, Richard Kilmer, who was a professor of oboe at Eastman, he used to be principal oboe of the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra. And they do music from all periods. But it's the size is, they can do works by early Beethoven symphonies, 18th century music, Vivaldi, Bach, Handel, anything. So that's a kind of
Stravinsky.
Stravinsky, of course. Yeah, and that's a kind of thing that is very helpful for people to know it's also a chamber orchestra.
Sure.
I'm banking on.
And they're world famous.
I see.
I'm banking on doing this for so many people that they'll get the habit. We want them to get the habit.
So just
Call it an addiction, if you will. That's fine. Just show up
yes, yes.
and learn more and love more.
So it's a matter of just opening the door, inviting them in, and then seeing how, if they would stay. And actually, I've seen that happen from your concert in February 2013, attending the other 2 concerts they had subsequent. People have really enjoyed it.
That's right.
And had no clue the kind of impact and power of great music. So it's great. So again, the chamber orchestra, very efficient, money-wise. You got lots of volunteers. Can't really do it without ushers, without ticket sellers, without yeah, people who put together the program. I know you do a lot of that. People who distribute the posters. I mean, these are just a lot of volunteers for the chamber orchestra, and you're always looking for volunteers. So if any of our audience members are looking at wanting to partake, certainly they can go to the website and find ways to do that, right?
Absolutely.
Definitely so, yes.
And not just musicians, not just usher, also other types of artists that they could also possibly be engaged in.
I think we will demonstrate a wish to collaborate. So I'm reaching out to artists, creative people, curious people in the community. I'm doing my very best to participate in building bridges between parts of the community. I'm a Rochesterian for 2 years, and I see that there are kind of divisions in the community. And if I all can be a part in and see if we can overcome that in any way, which I think is crucial for the future of any civilization, then I will feel very fulfilled. And I hope that the emphasis inspired by Frederick Douglass on the African-rooted talents, composers through the centuries and their influence on the music we do today, I hope this can be a bridge builder.
That's great. It's very enriching when you can have other themes that go with it, other art forms, and so it's just a richer experience for the audience. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it actually bodes well with the young people, how the young people have so many sensory things going on at the same time. So this kind of approach is really brings in a lot of these younger people who can multitask at the same time, right? But it's live instead of recorded.
Exactly, and it is also about showing respect for everybody's curiosity and creativity, and it's very, very crucial for me, important to me, to collaborate. My concerts should ideally be more happenings than what many people look upon as standard concerts. So we will have dance, we will have poetry, we will have narration, we will have, you name it, as much as we can, exhibited art. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, oh cool, that's wonderful. So
and surprises.
Mm-hmm. Yes, surprises and concerts are always there.
I love the twinkle in his eye when that word comes up, because I know there's a lot behind that. It's like, I feel like we're, with all respect, I feel like an engine that someone's coming along and changing the spark plugs and getting the things all enlivened again. It's a kind of perfect thing to feel right now. And I'm just jubilant about it.
No,
thank you. I've been living half my life in Vienna, and for me it makes complete sense for me to have moved to Rochester, to have gone through what I've gone through here. I'm at a very, very good, energized and happy moment in my life, and I will commit myself to the chamber orchestra with all my ability and energy, and it's going to be breathtakingly beautiful.
That's great. That's great. From the seeds of a wonderful musician and conductor from Latvia, right? And to passing the baton.
You know we are neighbors, right?
Yes.
You know we are neighbors.
Always been, right? From Europe to here.
It's not exactly the same language. I do not speak Latvian, but geographically we are definitely close neighbors.
Well,
I have to weigh in on this. I'm Swedish-Finnish.
Of course,
so
yes.
we got the
Related
Baltic.
to Sibelius, right?
Yeah, well, yes, there's a family connection. there,
Related
which
to
I'm
Sibelius.
very proud of that.
In fact, when I was a teenager, when I was about 7, 8 years old, my family, I come from a large family of 13. We used to have a family choir.
Nice.
And we performed around Europe for about 6 years as a family choir and a band. And we performed in Norway,
Nice.
in Oslo, in a big convention hall,
Oh, cool.
singing Russian and Latvian folk songs and stuff like that. So,
Great.
Very nice.
so Norway is not far from Latvia.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you, gentlemen. It's a wonderful ending to our show. I really appreciate you joining me and talking about the Rochester Chamber Orchestra, the past 50 years in our part one of our series, and the second part here about the future. So thank you very
It's a pleasure
much.
being here with you.
And thank you, our audience, for watching us today. I hope that you tune in for the next other editions of It's About Money, and also check out part 1 of the Rochester Chamber Orchestra if you haven't seen it. I'm Nannette Nocon. Until next time. Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you have any questions for It's About Money, please email Nannette at nnocon@aol.com. This program was produced through Penfield Community Television in Penfield, New York.